Good evening, everyone. Scott Henderson Shooter. And hey, we are going to go over some Elliott waves and some charts and have some fun, hopefully. Of course, at the end of our presentation, please do review our disclosures. All right, let me jump right to this. I'm going to start off with the indices. And you guys do see my chart. If somebody give me a 5x5, would be great. Hopefully that's good. I don't hear anybody saying no. So we're going to start with the SPY. All right, so we're in this flat. I don't think this is going to change. I think we're going to stay right here testing these highs. If we do get another high, I've got a number here up maybe 7.2 or 704.96, and then we're going to reject. I think it sort of plays out this meandering roll until we test the support. And then we find out whether we're going to break out and really go towards more highs if this shelf right here at 671.18 holds. That's where we are. We have a lot of support below us at this point. This is still support. This is still support. A lot of sell side, buy side imbalance in the same place. So you have a lot of confluence in those zones. It's going to take quite a little bit for us to break through the second band, and it'll take a lot for us to break through that third band. Because if we were going to do it, we would have done it here or here with how heavy those drawdowns. All right, let's jump over. Well, actually, one more thing on the SPY. The targeting, as far as the cycles I have, is the 19th. So that's where I'm projecting our low should be, or low should be in by, based on seasonality. So we've got about a week for that sort of to play out, whether I'm right or wrong. All right, now looking at the NASDAQ, I see a much deeper drawdown here, and it happens to be our low is actually projected with the slope of this ending diagonal. This is our 1, our 2, our 3, our 4, and our 5. So I do think we get down and test this, and maybe it only goes to 600 because that's sort of a psychological level, right at that number. But still, if we look at where our Flushing Drive 1 is, Flushing Drive 2, this is an extended, so it's an elongated one. Quite often those overshoot. So there is a possibility we could see 554, this is one of the reasons this look right here is why I have TQQ. I wanted to do further out. I was sort of mixed on whether I was going to try Fridays or not. I tried next week's because I wanted a little time. Also, that way I could add to it if the resistance and the numbers held. And right now we closed just, a minute above my number that I had a threshold. But these rolling candles that I see on the daily, we're going to take that out. Chances are, whenever you see your peaks, you got peak 1, then your second candle, third candle. Typically, you get a fourth candle a little bit lower. So if we push below this body of like 611.15, I think we do test back at least 50% of this band. And then we'll find out whether that's going to hold or not. But at that point, we should get a few bucks out of that anyway. Now, let's look at the Russells. I think it's toast. If we look at XLF, as far as the numbers, it is dump in. Okay, so who is the biggest benefactor from banks? The Russells is. So I think we do test this 250. I just want to see the the NASDAQ and the S&P rollover before I add to this, because basically it's going to be a pool roll into these positions as we start to break down. That's my thesis. Now, one of the factors here is that the the Dow is now waning, and it looks like we're putting in a top. So again, when we see those 4 candles, a topping pattern, the hammer candles, etc., typically we're going to put in one more. So I think the pullback is a minimum to 497. So what I'm seeing is we should get a sell across the board, which is one of the reasons when I got up this morning, I was just like, all right, I'm cutting my losses. Well, actually reducing my losses because I didn't have any. I just made about 3%, and instead of making more than that. But it's the way it is sometimes. It just doesn't move in the right direction for us. And at that time, the game is preservation of capital. That's the number one job we have. All right, now looking at silver. I actually spent a little time on this day, and Sentinel convinced me not to put a trade on. Isn't it crazy when your large language model, you have a dialogue or an argument with it, and it's giving you a reason why you should do something or why you shouldn't do something. And then what's even worse is when you respect that opinion. So I think that's absolutely insane. And I don't know how I really understand that, but at this point, it has more knowledge and sees more than I do in, a week. It can scan markets and see things that I just can't see as a human, whereas AI just has a massive amount of data there. So It's telling me that this could be an ABC, and I agree, it could be. So if we break down here, in other words, I have more conviction the further we get above this 86 that we get a pullback. So it is seeing it this way, and it's saying it could be a shallow ABC and it could do this. So maybe we push up to here and break down. So I want to see how this ledge works out. That ultimately was the end result of what we were reviewing, and we want to see it break above there, give us a back test on that back test hold, then maybe we'll chase something at that point. Crypto looks like it's in serious trouble. Let me go out to the monthly, well, actually the weekly on this one, so I can get a better visual of how big this is and what I see here. You know, we now are playing out with an impulse wave in RC instead of an ABC structure here. So I'm measuring it down. I think we go back to about 26 bucks on IBIT. And then let me jump to BTC and look at the structure here. Here is the impulse wave that I see down. So I think we're going to come back to 34, 35K. I mean, we need to get above this wick. I mean, that wick needs to hold, period. No questions, because the next support band is right here and it's kind of weak because it was, you know, we tested it, broke through that body, and let me just show you what I mean as far as the band. So, you know, this is our gap right here at this window, right? So once this shelf breaks, this really has no back test that's substantial. Notice how high our higher low is here. It's not even close to this. So there's no test. Same thing here, no test. So that gap means this ledge breaks, it's down here. That's structurally how that looks. All right, let's go and look at some EPFs. We looked at XLF, XLP daily here. All right, now what's arguing is that we have some sector rotation, like for example, consumer staples. I have a number where we could push up to about 94. It's just my bias. Looking at XLI, same scenario. We have significant upside. I'm measuring it to maybe 192. So again, we should see rotation into that industrial safety area and away from tech for a little while. I think that's the case because we're also seeing a push into emerging markets just for a minute. And also looking at communications, we kind of have this like flat look, but it either could hold, put it in a new high. I've got a much larger image on this. If I go out to my monthly and give you a visual, it is a much larger pattern. So this is our mound. So this was our trough. This is our peak. This is our trough. So that is mound one. So the second mound and our primary wave 3 puts us up to about 262 with equality. So there's a couple of places where we have some substantial upside as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's look at materials. Now materials are just absolutely killing it here. And I'm on a monthly chart, by the way. Look how bold those candles are on. It just boom. I mean, materials just did not, once it took off, just was gone. And I'm measuring that up to maybe about 68. Now, when I go through some of the names, there, and it surprises me, UUU, for example, struggled. FCX is pretty much recovered. MP looks like it's going to be toast. So, I mean, it's a mixed bag in materials, and there's only certain things that are running. Now, if what I see in gold and silver plays out, right, you know, ultimately, we could end up with a scenario where the other metals pull back with it. So I'm hesitant until we get a pullback and really test the body of this candle here as far as XLB 48, because, you know, obviously when you have three generals, you know, there's always a possibility for a reversion to the mean. So that would mean back to 45 bucks roughly. So it's difficult to chase, especially with the dynamics of the market I see. So here we have our primary wave 1 and 3 is going to be a little shallow, it looks like at this point. I had two different counts put up on the chart last week when we went through this one. I'm pretty sure this is it. So to me, it is an ending diagonal. Now, the challenging part with an ending diagonal is we can end up with a flat like this and it fade right at the 100 fib. So as far as utilities, there is a little flight to safety here, but it's not significant because quite often when you get a clean flight to safety, we pop. I mean, that's just a normal thing. So here in this leg, we had a clear flight to safety, and here we're winning. Notice how it's rolling over more of a slope there, etc. All right, let's jump to, well, actually, you know what? I didn't do gold. Let me do gold, or at least I don't recall doing. No, maybe I didn't. Let's go look at it. Did I have it on the daily? Yes. All right, so I think gold breaks down here. Just with the numbers that we have this gap. We're sort of fading, you know, at the body there, you know, this pulled down, opened, boom. So unless we take out this 469, like for example on GLD, I think it rolls back over. And at least we test these lows. Now it might put in a higher low, could do that. Or it could go down to our first support band at 405, and then we'd be done. But I always want to look at equality. And plus, this is where our sell side, buy side is balanced, and we have a demand zone, and we have a prior high that came in over here at 403. So that 403 is a big number right there. So that is where we likely bounce. So even though equality is at the base of this pattern, I would say there's a good possibility that we pop right here at the body of this particular candle, roughly at 403. So that's a spot where I would start dipping my toes into gold. All right, so let's jump over to our core stuff. Now, I'm just going to go through some names. We really don't have too much on, but other than that, I'm basically flat. Really haven't been there too much, but it looks like it was the right decision at this point. So I want to look at EOS because I like this again. Once we get down to this band, I sort of want to get everybody's mindset on it because, we did real well on this put. The one thing I like about this tape is it's euphoric when it flips. Now, note we did get a higher low here. This is why we want to watch it here, because if we get another flat candle like this, see these flat candles? And, obviously, if I miss it, you guys see it, and my alert didn't go off for it, I'm not going to see it, of course. So once I put in my slope alert, that's really the only thing that's going to tell me unless I'm looking at the chart. So I want to know when we go back above 50% of the body of this candle, roughly about 1223, and that's where I'm going to leave my alert. And if you guys look, it's just a good trade. It's an instrument I like to play. All right, let's look at Planet Lab. Nice little pullback. This is an ending diagonal. Clean, clean, clean. Those are the ones that I like, where I have confirmation of what my pattern is. I love it, structurally. So we should get something like, we could come down to here, but the likely place is right here. So 5 becomes kind of a flat, and then we get a decent bounce. And then we should head right back to this as far as a number going back up there. So structurally, if I throw a fib up here and look at our floor, measure that just so you guys understand my internal mechanics of how I think. So 50% back would be our target from this low at 19. So it's a good trade coming up. So that is clearly on my radar. All right, now let's look at BAM. Now this popped up. I didn't throw it back. I might have put it in a 1 minute stock invest the week before last. I'm not recalling if I did or I do so many charts. However, once we break above, now this is another one that's 50% back candidate as far as breakout here. And, once we're there, we're wicking right at it. So we pull above that 53.22 and we throw some fibs up on this. This is a nice name that is setting up nicely. Brookfield Management, I think it is. And, we'd be looking at roughly 57 back to the upside. Not a huge upside, but it's got some stability in, it's not bullish, but it held up really well as far as where our support bands are and our buy side and sell side imbalances. So it's another name that I really like. All right. Now Cisco is just running. It's running. And I did this more because I know somebody was going to ask me about this at some point. This is 3. That means we have a 5 coming behind here. So, this is our 1. Clean, clear. Nice deep extension. So it's a leading diagonal. That means we're going to put in probably a 3 like this. It'll be a shallow 4. Then we come in and put in our 5. And unless the breadth of wave 2 or wave 4 takes out wave 2, which is up here, which meaning it would have to do something like this, right? It's going to be that leading diagonal. And then we should see a shallow. The nice thing about those particular counts is the corrective legs are shallow. So the Cisco has a lot of upside. That's just the simplest way to put it. So we could see a shallow pop like this in an ABC right here, and then we go, and this could extend. So if we come in and measure our fibs off of this, it's going to probably come in, just guessing. I didn't put it on this chart because I wanted it to be one of my victims today. 52.11 roughly. So, it targets to the 2618 at 109 roughly based on that structure. So I like the upside there. All right, now Marvel, we closed today. And the main reason I closed, I just weren't on anything on with the way the market was at. And on top of this it was an ending diagonal. So it didn't move the way that I wanted it to. So, unless I am sold on the market being a buy, where everybody's buying into this, then I get more in a capital preservation mode. So it's still done nothing wrong if we turn and get bullish or we break back above this wick on this particular body. Just that would be a spot where I might jump back on board because I still like the structure going up. However, the fact that it's pulled back, we got this wick, I'm going to be a little hesitant with market week. All right, let's look at Blackstone. Now, right now we're holding. Nice spot. As far as structurally, have a decent sell side buy side imbalance right on this. Wick held it here. So as long as this holds, and realize we push back above 50% of this candle is where I would think about jumping on board, roughly right at this low right here. And notice how the confluence is there where it kind of measures that, where you see some equality there. And also, and I'm just saying that's not actual confirmation. Confirmation will be up here, but I'm using that as far as the word. So I want to come back over here and just give you how the visual, how close we are to the prior highs. So this is our true shelf right here. And as long as we don't breach that, it's a launching pad back up towards these highs. Worst case scenario, I think if we get that, it's going to come back and do like a 3 drive up there towards the top. Maybe back around 182. Well, we're at $130 right now. So that's not a bad trade on something as stable as Blackstone has been. So, all right, UPS, it's just going, and I'm like kind of ticked I sold it, but hey, it's what it is. You can't own everything and you can't hold it for long. So I still think we go back to highs. So I'm waiting for it to give me a freaking pullback so I can buy it again. That's it. And honestly, I only can look at it once in a while because it just ticks me off. I don't have a piece on. Jeez, cut me a break, All right, so I think we get back up here. So I'm thinking the pullback will be something like this is where I get interested. I don't really want to chase it here with that candle because there's too much of a chance it gives it back. I would like it back to maybe about our 4 there, roughly about 113. But UPS, it between John Deere, UPS, I mean, it's recovering just like I thought that those pieces of, as I call the generals of our stock market, just like I had thought they would recover like they always do. So that's where we are. Intel now we're hitting into a little resistance, huge wick off here. This is wave 3. Doesn't imply that we're done. That wick offs kind of does. Notice where we got our wick offs here, and then we gave it back. So that I'm conscious of. So I'm viewing this as our 1 and our 2. And 3, I mean, it could still, that could be it. And actually we put in which it would say it's done if it's our 4, then we come in and put it flat, something like this, and reject. But I would think the more likely outcome is that we come in here and test this resistance at 64, then we pull back to that level, and then we head towards about $75. So Intel, to me, not only that, it's got a lot of things working in some government contracts, as I understand it. That I want to try and get a piece on as soon as it gives me an opportunity. MTR, I want to buy back, trim down on weekends. So any kind of pullback in the market, we get done, get some exhaustion. This is a name I'm just going to jump back in because that's just structure sound. I mean, look at this wave structure. That's 1. 3 is going to come in here, maybe something like this. Throw some fibs up there on it, ballpark, boom. We got a huge euphoric candle to chase there. So it's going to chase that 618 easy. And then if we extend, realize an extension is way the heck up to the 1618. Now notice how that euphoria switched. So that would be in that situation, we probably push up to the 78.6 on that leg. Then we get a back test, like a little quick ABC, and then we put in another impulse leg behind that. So this is at the beginning, as far as I'm concerned, of its move. Probably do something like this, and then we will get in another impulse leg that follows behind there is how I would think the structure works. So, get something like this. We'll do the same kind of scenario as we did on the first leg, boom, and then we're up at the 1618. So $196 is totally viable on a $73 stock. And remember where you heard it. All right, so let's look at TSM. Now, I don't think this slows down, which is why it's on my list. Semis are about ready to pop if the rumors are true, and realize we're confirming here. So what we know is where we are right now. We're going to get at least one more divergent higher high in price from here. Any kind of pullback is going to get me interested. This looked like an impulse leg when I first reviewed it this week, or last week I started looking at it. So this is our 1. This is our 2, right, a little broader. So it is an ending diagonal. So it should not exceed the distance, which it already has. So it's overdone, way over from an extension standpoint. So this is a name that probably when it pulls back is going to be pretty aggressive. So the 1618 is probably where we end. And then we get a decent pullback. I would expect it probably to be pretty deep, would be my thinking. And then we probably, and when I say deep, I'm going to say we're going to come back and test something like this. So about $300 is where I really get interested in TSM. All right, let's look at FCX. Now, this was a name I should have never sold, but hey, I seem to be saying that a lot this year, guys. Gals, if gals are here, I didn't look. But here it's, we're kind of we've already overshot our 5 here. So the continuation is probably going to push us up to something like this. Or I'm wrong. And this, not that I'm wrong, it's just structurally different. This is our 2. This becomes our 3. It's going to let me pull it. Won't quite be there. 3 will be up like this. 4 will come in like this. 5 will come in like, which I think is very highly likely. So if we come in and throw our fibs up here on this one, and we're looking at, roughly the 1618 minimum for an extension for 3. So actually our 4 should be shallow. And then our next cycle up is the 2618 at 151. So again, we're talking about a $65 stock that should do 1x to 2x from here. All right, let's look at the requested names. I got to come back down to the daily because we're not going to have enough room here. NTSK looks pretty good as far as the MAC. Nope, changed my mind. You're confirming here. We've got a divergent low. Yeah. Test would be a break back above. I mean, you could take a shot here actually because I don't like the sell kind of look going into market week. If there was market strength, I would have a different mindset with that. I'm thinking more that, hey, this will be your confirmation, but realize the real confirmation isn't until we break above this 1325. So you can take a shot at 12 bucks. My stop would be right here at this wick. Takes out that wick, then it's not done. So that would be my stop. And then let me measure where it would go here. I'm just looking at this visually. Tough tape, ABC up there, structure. It's an impulse down. So I'm going to say this is our 1 because this here is an ABC structure. So this is our 2. So if this is an impulse, it's going to do something like this. Put in our 5. It also could be an ABC structure, which it has more likelihood to be there because this is an ABC structure here, right? This is an extended C ABC structure, right? Now, this could be an ABC, A, B, C, right? But that puts us our quality back down to where wave 5 would be. Basically, it's the same outcome that you look on that. So I would try it at 1254, go to the next name here, but I wouldn't put too much on it with market weakness. We need more market strength for me to get any kind of conviction. All right, TMDM. Tandem Diabetics actually looks pretty good here. It's an elongated C. So, this was our A, this is our B, and this is our C. It looks that way, right? You have clean divergence, have confirming low, divergent low, another divergent low. So this is a 3 drive technically, which it's one of the few pieces that has the potential of reverting 100% to the breakdown of its point or break up as this last point. So it's got a shot at 24 bucks up here. And your stop would be the low, good spot. Good stock to pick to have me look at, by the way. So if it invalidates, it would be below 1849 is what I would work it with it as. All right, let's look at the next one. Lunar, I think it is. Intuitive Machines. Clean ABC structure. Not done. We'll map it out just for us. Shoots and giggles here. All right, so this is our A, this is our B, and we likely get a C probably here. All right, I'm wrong. If it breaks above the body of this, really you could use the body of the candle, but let's just call it the wick. So it would invalidate the short side if it gets back above there, but you could come in here and say, yeah, I might want to try a piece at 1939, would sort of be my look, but it actually looks like a good sharp. Really, to be candid, because here's your ledge. Once that breaks, this spot right here, it's going to accelerate right off of that body right there. Right there. That puppy will bring us down. And your target is 13 bucks. So it's $4 to the downside on a small cap kind of thing. Looks pretty good, at least to the downside. All right, looking at ONDS, it's a ending diagonal. And it's a freaking turd, but hey, it was supposed to pop. Didn't do it. What it is. Can't win them all. We get on the right side more than not. So, all right. So ending diagonal. Well, it really might not be an angle. No, it's not. It's leading diagonal. Leading diagonal. So then we probably have a shallow pop ABC out of this. So this could be our A. Notice how I change my mind when I see something. So ABC right here, we probably reject at 11 and come back down and put it in another impulse or an ABC down. I mean, I would think the minimum. That doesn't look positive now that I see that. I didn't see that. So, I mean, our structure would probably be like this for an impulse, an ABC structure down. So, or it could become an impulse as well in the same scenario. It just depends on where the back tests come in as far as levels. So it's got some risk to the downside here. All right, looking at AMKR, and honestly, after looking at that, I'm glad I'm not holding it. All right, so this is a clean completion of wave 4 in an ending diagonal. Beautiful look. Actually, I love it when they're nice and clean. No question on what it is. Notice how wave 4 is broader than wave 2. Here, 2 here. See how shallow that is and how much broader wave 4 is. All right. So now the only question is it going to basically fade right here? Good spot for it to fade, or does it keep going? Now let's see what fibs tell us. as far as the level. And I'm going to measure, I'm sure by now you guys have seen different levels that I measure at different places, but each leg has its own fib, and then you can go back and measure the entire cycle, and it gives you a different fib. And this is really a solid trend here. Notice the trend. But to measure that fib, you need to come in and measure the entire leg from the trough, the peak to the trough, come over and drop it in, and it'll give you another set of fibs. It gives you a better visual of the whole structure. Turn that black just so it stands out different. So from the whole structure, 1618, we have some confluence there at $68-69. So my opinion would be that it continues this leg up to about that level. Looks good. I mean, if it takes out, I might change my mind or reduce my position. I would use a confirming trend support risk management on this simply because of the way the tape looks. So this is where I would look at it. Trimming or I'd call it an invalidation zone. But as far as your anchor, I would use, you can use this anchor and run it up, but same thing if you go to your next shelf. Go to 50% of your last body, your main body. So I would use my anchor at 52.44 and roughly 29.70. On a confirming trend support line. All right, let's look at EWZ. Looks really good to the upside. I saved this just for that reason. Nice flagging look here to the upside. So, this is our pole, right? Boom, heads back to the upside. Either it's an ABC like that or it continues with an impulse. This is a clean impulse in one on the underside here. If you look at this, shallow 1, I'm just going to leave the 2 there. A little deeper 4, and then 5 is elongated and extended. So it's holding. That is a very bullish look, by the way, when an impulse does that. So from a fib standpoint, where could this thing go? I'm going to measure this one because it's the most dominant leg. That's a clear mound right there from 30.72, roughly. So it measures clean to the 2618 at $47. Hold, try and hold. Or add if you haven't added. Kind of look. All right, TIMB. I'm going to call that an impulse wave 3 we're in. Looks pretty good here. Forgive me. Say it probably rejects here and then heads up. You see what our fibs are on this one. Man, by this time of the day with the number of charts that I've looked at, man, my hand is tired. I have a hard time getting my finger to click. Getting too many arthritis in the hand from this mouse, I'm telling you. All right, so, let's do 20 points. Is that right? Yeah, that's it. All right, so 1618 is totally viable. Oh, again, I would use confirming trend support here. Run it from your base. Rid of that. So run it from your base. I would come up and when we break above the wick of this candle, I'd raise it right up to the base of that candle. But here, I just go to 50% of the gap. You don't want to give it back. So I'd run my anchor at about 26.42 down and 19.12 on the low side. EWW. Now, EM is good too. I can pop that up after. Mexico probably rolls over here. It's like close. I would agree with that 5, except for the 5. One thing Elliott Wave Absolute does not do is it doesn't have a great projection on what our waves are. So wave 3 was our longest wave. So in most circumstances, 5 is equal to what 1 is. So it's not projecting. Right now it says 5's in at 81. I would say it's a little higher than that. We can come in and pop our fibs up off of this last leg. Let's just measure the base of 2, the peak of 3, and come back, measure 4. So you got an extension here. We really could easily push to the 100 fib based on that leg. We'll put one more fib up there so I get a true visual. Sometimes my eyes work, sometimes they don't. So I'm going to come in here and say, this is my ledge. See what that looks like from the whole structure. 1618 is right overhead on that. So you have a little confluence at $82. So that probably is where we get a little bit of a rejection there, maybe an ABC pullback. Right there is what I would think. Maybe we get to here, do a little pullback, something like that, and we take off for another impulse. But it has some decent upside. All right, let's look at Galaxy Digital. Nice floor. MACD say. MAC is wanning. Come out for the weekly on this one. Nice flush. Quality's not there. That's the only thing I don't like. It's wanning on the correction. So when I say correction, in other words, the counter trend correction, going back to the bull side, we got this huge bull candle at rejected price right at 50%. The likelihood of quality is pretty high here. Pretty high. I would think if I was going to enter this now, I would wait till we flush a little bit and do $16 cash secured puts. The only way I would chase this gets back above here on the long side here, right at the moment, roughly above $24. Then you got a shot back up here at 38. So your conviction is lower, or the bias is lower. And the only reason you start considering the long is whether we take out this $22. All right, let's look at MOS. Nice move. It's going. Slowing down. This is an impulse clean. Maybe it may end up being a flat, but I'm going to call it an impulse here. So it's going to do something like this, probably be pretty deep. So it's going to hit some resistance around 39, but at this point it's done nothing wrong. I would use confirming trend support on this as well. Base 50% of that candle. Once it takes it out, you get a candle above there. For the time being, I would go right to the base of that candle, and that would be where I would run my confirming trend support now, giving it a little room. So you're using 28.61 and 23.55. All right, let's look at SMR. Man, it's just, we're not recovering in nuclear at all. I was noticing that when I was looking at a bunch of charts this weekend. Again, that's going to be, my timeline for 45Z stuff was May. That was my idea. That's my visual of the timeline. With nuclear, we need some kind of presidential action to accelerate the process, and then all of these names reverse. I still like SNR better than a lot of names. And the main reason is this way this fib extends on this. So we had this huge impulse wave that came in, which was on the news of nuclear, by the way, right? And then all of a sudden, the euphoria waned, and we gave it all back. So we had a reversion to the mean on that entire leg. So the way this looks from a structural standpoint, this is our trough, this is our peak. So we have an ending diagonal here, and this is way overdone for an ending diagonal. So that's our wave 4, ending diagonal. We had an extended 5, which is true of the impulse. So this kind of retrace is not unusual. So once this takes out this 23.20, we're going to head back at least to this 39 bucks. 618 is going to be the number. So common shares, it's not probably a bad name to scale a little bit from a position trade standpoint, looking out, 6 months to 3 years kind of thing. However, I don't know that I'd get to a half a position size on this until we get back above like this 1945, maybe max. And then I wouldn't have a full position size on until it takes out that 23.20. Is my thought. SLDP is not done yet. I can just see it in 2 seconds flat, looking at an ABC structure to the downside. RSI is telling us it's confirming, which I'll go point to in a second, but equality is way the heck down here. A lot of risk with a weak tape, small name. Again, back into power name. Notice how RSI is confirming. MACD is wide open. It's not done. It's going to at least minimum test $3, I would say. I'm wrong. It clears the body of this candle back around 443. All right, ZM, and I'm going to go back to the daily on this one, only because that's how I looked at all the charts for this. And honestly, I didn't put Zoom up there. Zoom, it looks like a nice impulse forming here. So this should be a wrong one. Sorry. One of these days, I'm going to put the quick link up there. I keep threatening to do it, keep forgetting to do it. All right. So we're going to have probably rejects right here. However, we got a 19% sell right here, right at that line. So that's probably where it rejects. And we go up here and then we probably reject about 326. Let me just come throw some fibs up here, see what this leg looks like measure wise. So we came in here and put our high in here, getting close. So 1618, it could fail there. I might be wrong. That could be a leading diagonal, could end up be putting in a shallow 3, maybe a 4 like this, and our 5 comes in here like this. If 3 extends here, just looking at where the fib is, there's a likelihood that this rolls off to a flat, something like that. But you still have decent upside. So what I would use as my stop on this one, because it does look pretty good. That wick implies seller exhaustion, this wick right here, right? Had some more seller exhaustion here, right? It wicked into the prior high, right? But it didn't close in there. So the body of the candle didn't get in there. So that's a solid test from a back test standpoint. And the fact that we took this out and it didn't come and take that out with a body implies that the bulls are more in control than the bears are. But I would wait till my volume turns green on a daily. Wait till I start getting a decent volume that turns green. I wouldn't buy it when it's red. All right, BABA. Now I expect a reject here for a little bit. I think it's an ABC corrective leg. Even though we're seeing some shifts into, we got the pop that I was chasing before. Forgive me, I'm on the wrong name again. Or wrong tool. So I'm thinking we get an ABC off of this leg down here, something like this, because that's very viable. I mean, it could just come in here and do a shallow one, hold this ledge right here where we're at here. Just notice how we got this gap right going out of there. So we have this huge buy side BISI right here. So, it's sort of a good spot for it to come back and hold there. We did reject price here right at this resistance and that sell side imbalance that's there, and have another one up there. So it probably rejects there again if it gets back up there. But I would like it much better at this point at 152. All right, IOT. And if you guys wanted any other charts, post it in chat for me, because I think I got all of them, but I was getting lost in the chat today. It went down and then I I lost stuff. I couldn't find it sort of because I couldn't log in to put anything in there. So if this is an ABC, we got one more structure down. I think it's an impulse, just the way I see it here. So this, of course, would be our 2. This was our 3. So we should get a 4 about right here. Should get another leg lower. Come in and see where I want to come out to a monthly here. That's a big drawdown from that puppy. So the fibs are, what is it going to give us? Roughly, we're already past, my golden ruler, my golden box, we closed below the 78.6. We now target the 1618. We've closed below the 1618. However, we didn't get a body of a candle, so we're starting to recover here a little bit. So we get back above this body, there's a chance we bounce a little more from where we are. But I don't think, just looking at that name, I wouldn't think that whole. So I'm saying the line in the sand here is about 28.79. That would probably be a good spot to try some short. But I would think that we do back test this shelf here, at least down to this 96. Now, I'm wrong, again. Not that I'm not wrong if it takes this out. Next level up, I'd be wrong. So if it takes out the body of this candle, I'm just going to go up here, takes out this candle, then we clearly have a bullish change back to the upside. So that would, in my opinion, that's where we would change and have confidence. All right, so what names did I miss on our list? Oh, EWZ, didn't I do that? CX, boy, that's got a nice trend. That's a pretty thing, right? I used to chase a lot of trends, and I don't chase them as much as I used to because I have more conviction in wave patterns, more confluence that I see here. So when I see that, it always like, ooh, that's a good trend. I want to buy it. That FOMO kicks in and like, ooh, because a trend can double what your wave 1 is. So we could run up here just for that reason towards 2618. 1618 is your most viable target here. So that's a 5. We're going to get an X8, an ABC pattern right behind there. It'll come in something like this. Boom, 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 boom. And we put it in another impulse. And just for shoots and giggles, I'm just going to clone this and wrong clone this, boom, and move it up over. And let me get rid of that one. So we have an extended, it'll really extend. 3 will be up here. We probably push the 2618 here as far as a number coming in there. So I would think the 1618 is totally viable here. Probably would be a shallow pullback. I might be a little generous in the depth here because that's a pretty euphoric trend. But maybe something like the pullback is to like 1273, roughly where we are right. All right. So let's look at EWZ. I don't remember why I didn't call that. I looked at them all though, but I had it on there. Maybe I didn't do it. Okay. So from a fibs here, Brazil. Yeah. I didn't do. I looked at it before though because I haven't worked up 5,000 stocks or whatever the number is now. There's no way I'm gonna look at all. So we could really push here on the assumption, get rid of this and just do another one. It's not in line with seeing. It's easier just to draw a new one. Yeah, it could be a 5 already. This could be, it could be getting ready to win. I'm going to steal this wave. Again, every stock has an MO. The wave patterns are pretty consistent. Buyers and sellers don't change. So we can move this over here. It's not that impulsive here. So now I'm looking for peaking drives. So this is probably our one. It's probably our one. Just looking at the tape because this is accelerated from this slope and volume that's coming in here. So it's got some decent upside here. And we've got a second general that it's putting in on this leg. So I would say it's viable to maybe $55. All right, Roblox. It was dumping RBLX. However, it's a good spot. Try a piece right here. You have a number of different things that are positive. This is your wick off of our low here. You have sell-side imbalance here, even though it's a little deeper. Comes down really to about here. Wicks tested it, held. Wick came into it, didn't take out. Body didn't close before. If I was going to add here, which I'm not because of market sentiment, because this is a name that'll probably dump if the market comes down. That's the challenging part right now as we start fading in the indices. The smaller names will be extremely challenging. Not only that, if you look at the number where we came in here and put in this top, it will come back up here, but it doesn't mean we don't have a full reversion to the mean by it. It'll come back up here and test this. But realize that's way the heck out. 160 is out in 2029. So, that's way the heck out. And we also have an internal trend, which we've broken. So this probably is an impulse down. Looking at it here, this is 1, this is 2, probably be 3, whatever that number comes in at, and it probably comes down and tests like that. So I'd like it much better at $43 here. We have an MACD cross, which is kind of bullish. RSI is confirming with divergence. We got a nice divergence there. I'm looking at a monthly trend. No wonder. I'm sitting there saying, man, I don't remember the tape looking like that as I'm looking at it. And it'd help if I was right on the right time frame, wouldn't it? However, is that going to change my opinion? I don't know. We're going to find out here quickly. So it's actually a downtrend. Tough read. Gee. You could say here, though, that would, it could be done here. Could be done. That could be our 4. I might have been going too deep. Reason is because this is kind of an ABC. A, B, C, right? And then comes back up, this little ABC in there, flat consolidation zone. So that's XYZ, impulse down. So this is 1, this is 4, excuse me, this is 2, this is 4, 5. Nice clean ABC structure in the setting here. So this is probably an ABC. So it could be done just because of how the noise is here. Could be done right here. All right, where are we wrong? Let me come back to the weekly. I still like the name. I like the pullback. It's gonna bounce. The question is it gonna be down here? I like it here. Influence. Notice how we've tested that. Tested it here, held, broke out, came back, held here. Very strong point. We get down there, that sucker's going to bounce. On top of that, we do have some, on the weekly, we have some divergence. So this is a confirming low and a divergence. I still like it here. It's just the market's too freaking weak to add. That's my 2 cents. Okay, folks, anything else you wanted me to look at? All right, folks. Well, great trading. Until next time, thanks for joining me. We'll see you guys next week.